All right, folks, got the Honda up on the lift. It's a CRV. I think it's a 2013. It's got the big 2.4, and it doesn't start. And by that I mean it doesn't start easily. You've got to really crank this thing, crank, probably 30 to 45 seconds, I would guess. And then it starts and seems to run well. Typically, when a car does that, there's a problem with, camera crank signal or synchronization, something like that. And indeed, this car does have the engine light on. I'm pointing over there, the scan tool, because that's where it's at. P0335, no crank signal. I'm thinking, not gonna bother making a video. We probably just have a bad crank sensor, but it's gonna be a little something different. So I wanted to stop where I was at in my diag and just bring you guys along and then find out what we're gonna find out. And what are we gonna find out? Well, I don't know. What I do know is I grabbed my little U-scope to come under here. I was just gonna hook it up real quick and see if we had a crank signal and do a couple preliminary checks and order us a crank signal and sensor and be on our way. But I believe we've got bigger issues because we don't have, or at least my preliminary check there, we don't have power and ground down here. This should be, according to service data, a 12 volt sensor. Let's see if we can't unplug it. There is a little black cover that goes over this thing, which I've already taken off. Here we go. We'll get it unplugged. And I just hooked up my power probe while I was grabbing my camera, and we're gonna see. We're just gonna push buttons. We're gonna nope this thing. No, don't do that. Supposedly, our yellow wire with the black stripe is supposed to have ignition voltage. When I lightly probe in the front of that, we have 0 voltage. All right, so now are we just missing power, or are we missing power and ground and the whole shebang? So I'm going in the middle wire, which is brown with yellow, which according to my information is supposed to be sensor ground, brown yellow, very lightly front probed here. And you can see we have nothing there either. So that means that the left wire here should be a signal wire. And we have nothing there either. Which usually if there's connection, it may not have a bias voltage on it, but if there's connection to the PCM, we're gonna get something, some sort of voltage reading. So this is interesting that we have nothing, no ground, no power, and potentially no signal wire. So that, I guess we can leave unplugged, but it's kind of peculiar. So let's let the car down. I did do a little visual inspection under the hood. I didn't see anything. I get a little waft of mouse essence here and there, but I don't see any mouse nest, because that's why I did a little visual inspection on the hood. And just looking around, I don't see any big buildup. I see pieces of the hood blanket missing, but no real accumulation of mouse jiddly stuff. So let's go have a look. So we're all up to speed. Here's the codes that had the 335 ABS for having a malfunction in the PCM, and then missing an engine speed signal and VSA malfunction, which all of these codes all relate back to 335. We have no crank signal. Everything else is going to light up. So that's where I was at. And let me grab my light here. So I've already done a visual inspection myself. I saw the mouse damage here, which you don't know how old any of that is. But I don't see any right offhand. Here's our computer. I don't see big piles, stuffed around anything. But all that little sucker's got to do is get in there and chomp into a harness, any old place, and take a little bite out of it, and that's it. The crank sensor wires run up, the back side of the engine here. I don't see anything, back there, but maybe I'll take a little harder look now that I know what we're dealing with and what we're missing. And if we don't see anything, well, we're gonna have to go right to the PCM and see, do we have the outputs there? I may see the problem now that I've done and give it a hard look. I shut the key off. Let me unhook our battery maintainer here. The battery is just about smoked. I barely got the car started. And I think I don't see mouse evidence because I think they ate the entire wire. So I'm just looking back here where this crank sensor comes up, and they ate the whole freaking harness. There is this much wiring harness that is MIA. Well, that lady is certainly your problem. But there's no sense in going any further because we're going to need the connector, which this is part of the factory harness. I guess we're going to have to see if Wilbert's has one of these. We're going to have to go to the Junkyard to get this half of the connector. Let's tear this apart and make sure I'm looking at the right connector and not something else. Well, at least our diagnosis was right. We don't have anything on all three wires. So we're going to take and unplug our mass airflow. We'll see if we can't get this. Looks like a 5.5 millimeter. We'll get this little guy up out of the way. And then I think if we get the lower airbags out of the way, we should be able to see the connector that I'm talking about. Hopefully I'm right here. Oh, that's a 5. We need that extra half. So there's 5.5. There's this. See if the mice moved in here. Oh boy. They did. So here's some of our hood blanket. You better not be living in here, fella. There's the other part of it. Never know, you reach down for one of them things. All of a sudden, little mouse, get you. You don't want that because you'll scream like a little schoolgirl. At least I do. What holds this air box in here? Looks like a 10 mil. Yeah, I can see the connector better now. Let me, well, let's leave this thing in. We'll get a 10 mil and I'll get you guys around here where you can see. Take that bolt out. Set that right up there. And then I think this here, she should just pop out. Yeah, this probably has never been out. Yeah, kumbaya. There we go. This is held in with one rubber donger there, one rubber donger there, and then our bolt. And then I think we can see what we've came to see. Leave that there. Oh boy. Yeah, he must have just ate the wire. Usually they build a little nest here, but he come down, he's like, yum, 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 yum. Let's see if we can do this. Enhance. So on the blue connector, it wouldn't focus here, but you can see that blue connector. Well, that comes over to this wiring harness right here. So it goes from here to over there, and there is nothing in between. This thing is just chewed off right flush at the end of my finger. So right down, enhance, right down here. Little mouse ate that thing and ate all of it. Tricky little booger, ain't they? So we need to go to the Junkyard and see if we can find that connector. Let me get it unhooked here for you. Okie dokie, let's see. Actually I need to move you because I need to stand here. Well, maybe this isn't the right approach either. Maybe I need a longer pick. Try this, because this holds it onto the bracket. Which I think you gotta push this way. Actually, let's unplug the crank sensor first. If I can get that. Kind of in an awkward spot. Okay, that's unplugged. See if I can't get this connected here. Come on, baby. There we go. So that sits right on a bracket. There, and you got to push the little tab in here. There's not enough wire here to make the repair. Connector's good, so if we had, you know, pins that we could replace, but I think what we'll do, we'll go down to the Wilbert's U-Pole of the Bath, not a sponsor, and see if we can find one of these on a CRV or a Accord or something. We'll take our 10, we'll take our 5.5, we'll take a pair of cutters, we'll take our pick, and see what we come back with. stand by. So I did a little poking before I left. Wilbert's website, you can check their inventory. They do have a 14 CRV and a 14 Honda Accord, which the CRV definitely will be the same engine. The Accord, you know, that could be a 6-cylinder, but they had a bunch of older ones too, I think 2009 and older or so. So I forgot my printout, so we'll have to get one when we get here, and then we'll go out looking to see what they have. 17 and 20, they told us, so way in the back 40. Look at all this Chevy Thunder. Way out here in the back 40. This is row 17. Looks like a lot of imports here. See if we can find this a Honda. There's a Nissan. Is that a Toyota? Looks like it. Maybe an old Celica or something. That looks like a Moda. What year is this one? Oh, this is 03. Yeah, that's an EGR engine. I don't know if it's the same. No, not worth looking. We'll keep going. We'll find the one that we need. Oh wow, is this the CRV? Looks a little squashed. 2014 Honda CRV. Well, at least you know the engine's good, huh? Gotta move some stuff out of the way. Alright, get that out of the way. Might set you guys down. Let me set you guys down. Here we go, boys. If I can reach it, we'll be in good shape. There it is, fellas. Let's see, let's make sure it's not all green and crusty. That half we don't need. Leave that for somebody else. This half we do need. Look at this. Freaking mouse got this one too. Ain't that some stuff? It ate the black insulation off it. Must be these crank sensor wires are yummy. Yum, 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 yum. Let's get out the wire room opener. I didn't bring my sewing seam ripper with me, so before you leave that comment, we're gonna just slice through this little fella, open up the main harness here, pull our wires out, leave that there. We don't really need all this tape and stuff, but this should give us enough to repair ours. I did bring a connector with us right here in my pocket. Same wire color and everything. Look at that, boys. We just saved this lady. We're like Geico. Well, that was easy. Fortunately for us, that car had the whole front end peeled up on it, so it made it accessible. So that's good. Now let's go back and we'll have to cut open this lady's harness, find those wires, and then, you know, probably just use some crimp and seal connectors, and she'll be on her way. Here we go, folks. I took my razor knife and just slit the harness here just enough to get through the tape and get to the open part of the harness, and then I was able to pull just those 3 wires out, which worked out absolutely splendid. And then we're going to take these wires. I got you guys kind of propped up there in a weird spot, so hopefully you'll be able to see, but we'll just take these. And I'm really close to the mic, so don't mind the heavy breathing. It's not personal. We're going to just strip these back, way too much. And then we're gonna crimp and seal our connectors. Feel free to leave a comment how they are terrible connectors, that's fine. But if you're in the mood for taking real advice, they're actually really great connectors and they work really well, especially in situations like this. So we're gonna twist these up and then we're gonna have to trim them down here a little bit because I did peel them back a little bit too long. I'm gonna trim that one back a little. That one there, and that's good. And these are the crimp and seal connectors here, and these things work excellent. They add the adhesive in them. They make a nice mechanical crimp, providing you're using the correct side of your crimping tool. You know, don't use the one that has the little dimple on it, because that is the one that has a little tooth sticking out there. That is for non-insulated connectors, and what it will do, it'll crimp just fine, it'll hold, but it'll pierce the insulation when you go to seal it. It'll break through on you and kind of defeat the purpose. Hopefully you guys are in frame. What the heck is that noise? Oh, it's my light sliding up the hood. I'm gonna crimp that one. Okay, they all look good. I'm gonna take, just for grins and giggles, I'm gonna heat up this end. I'm gonna seal the end that I already have crimped. That's one less thing I have to do down there, and it'll be a little easier on the bench. That one looks good, that one looks good. Blue one. Make sure we're not gonna have insulation up in our crimp. We should be good. Hopefully these are solidified at this point. So there's those. And they appear to be, we'll do one wire at a time. Get that on there. Pardon my reach, fellas. Alright, now we'll seal those up, get them all shrunk down. We should be in good shape. Get the cart running again here. Be sure to leave in the comments how these should have been soldered and heat shrinked. We'll be looking for that comment. But when you do that, also, if you would please, if nobody ever does, just explain why. You can leave your comment about how I should be using a heat gun instead of my little mini torch, which we understand why on that. But it's okay, because it does the job very nicely. So they appear to be pretty solidified at this point. I see how the adhesive has oozed out the end. Looks like we have a good seal on those. I'm going to take some of the Scotch 33, stick them back down here in the harness. I will have to move you guys for this procedure. I'm gonna lay them back where they were. We're gonna tape them up and then clip that back on the bracket. If you guys don't watch our channel very often, or if it's your first time, or maybe you've missed an episode where we've made a mini roll from a mini roll, take your 10mm socket, take your electrical tape, Scotch 33 of course, best tape on the planet. Wind her up nicely around your socket when you think you have enough. Set that down. We'll just use that so we could hold it. Take this, chop it off, put all that stuff back in your pocket so you don't lose it. Take your And voila, you've got your mini roll. There we have it, folks. I know you probably can't see it, but there's the harness that came out of, so it's all taped up. And of course, the wire lead that runs over to there. And I just clicked it back on its bracket and plugged it back in. So that's all good. Now we just need to put this stuff back and see if it runs. There's that. Dump the mouse dust out of our air filter there for her. And I'm not going to call it to upsell the air filter and all that stuff. I'm just going to do the job I was hired to do, which was to see why the engine light was on and to see why the car won't run. And that's all we're doing. We did. So we're going to plug that little fella back in. Now there is, I don't think I showed you guys this because I was working on it solo mio at that point. There's this little metal cover that goes over it here. Stick the bolts back in it. So I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't see that wiring harness on my first visual inspection. But, like I say, I was looking for a mouse nest, not a whole section of missing harness. But they do that sometimes. I don't know what the little buggers do with that. They carry it off and use it for nesting material, but quite interesting to see the other one at the salvage yard had the beginnings of rodent damage also. You know, they ate through that black insulation, so that's pretty interesting, right? And then we've got this little guy here. Oh god, take your light back. You don't want to give that to the lady. Set this thing on. Let me hold that up there from there. These are usually always missing when the car comes in. Or the Jiffy Lube has these things so stinking tight you can't get them out. So if you're putting these screws in your Honda, just finger tight, my guy. That's all you have to do. Or if it's a quarter turn fasteners on the newer Hondas, those things are always missing. I don't know why people can't put those back, but I actually keep them in stock because they're always missing. Prior to doing that, we're just going to go key on, engine off. I'm going to go clear the codes out of it first. Quick erase, there we go. Wipe the codes out of it, then we'll see if it starts. Oh, we still got 57 thou on it. It's hitting low mileage. So key off, we'll go key back on. Oh, beautiful. Fires right up now. Fixed. So that's it, folks, fixing the Honda. A little, I mean, it wasn't very difficult. A little more difficult than just, you know, what I thought it was going to be, which was just a faulty crank sensor, which I should have used my noodle on that. They don't fail too often on these Hondas. As a matter of fact, the only time I've ever changed them is if somebody's installed an aftermarket and it's creating issues. So I didn't know what I was going to find, but I should have brought you along from the beginning. So fortunately for us, the Wilbert's U-Pull of the Bath, not a sponsor, they're only down the road a couple miles from my shop, so it's a lot easier to go down there, just cut us an OEM connector than it is to, you know, call Honda or one of the connector sales places online and get the correct pins and wires and then wait for those to show up while the car just essentially sits in your parking lot, and we can run down there just as easy and, you know, chop it off. A lot of folks will comment saying that's great that I do that for my customers and this and that. However, I don't do it for free. You don't work for free and I don't work for free. It's just a fact of life. You can unsubscribe and hate me if you like, but I'm not employed to stay busy. I'm employed to make a profit just like you guys. I have bills to pay, house to pay for, cars to pay for, everything. So before you start tooting my horn saying that's great that I do that, please don't, because I don't run a charity service. So, but I, you know, charge my customer a fair price. This is still a really inexpensive fix at the end of the day. Anyhow, just wanted to clear that up. And I guess that's it. I like my crimp and seal connectors, and I like my heat shrink and solder. Those are the two connection types I use the most. The crimp and seals are really great, particularly in repairs like this. You could have done it either way, it doesn't really matter. I like those quick and easy, and they work. So that's it. Why don't you guys work your way in that comment section? Questions, comments, concerns, Insta. Find us on the Facebook. You guys know we're everywhere. Just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.